right, good. So my name is Angela Nissing. I am a student in the EDD program at Drexel University. And I am a department chair for an English for academic purposes program at Montgomery College in Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C. And what I'd like to tell you today, I'd like to just share a story with you about the last several months where we ended up having to bring in a major innovation due to COVID-19. So first of all, I'd also like to just preface this by saying I think that a lot of this that we were able to do has been due to a lot of the things that I've learned in the Drexel program, you know, thinking about creativity theorists and learning about adaptive leadership and, you know, just learning and thinking about these ideas of dealing with change and crises has just been, you know, an incredible experience and really helpful for what we've had to do this spring. So one theorist that I'm thinking about is Teresa Amabile from Harvard Business School, and she defines creativity as producing novel, workable ideas and solutions to problems. And innovation is implementing those ideas within an organizational context. So I'd like to just share the story with you this spring of how we did that. So here's our context. Montgomery College, it's a large community college with 25,000 students in suburban Maryland, just outside DC. And we have 3 campuses in very highly diverse communities. By some measures, these are 3 of the most diverse communities in the United States. We have 165 countries represented in our student body in any given year. And again, my role at the college is that I'm in my 7th year as department chair for the English language, the academic English language program. And as part of that position, I'm the placement coordinator for second language students college-wide. So if students do not have a standardized test score, such as the IELTS or the TOEFL, or the SAT from high school, if they don't have one of these scores, if they don't have a 3.0 GPA from the high schools, or other measures that we sometimes use to exempt students from the process, students have to take a placement test to determine where they begin their college journey. So there are placement tests in several different areas, in math, in science, in English, in languages, and they're all a little bit different. But traditionally, they are standardized computer-based tests. So for the academic English program, we use it has been the AccuPlacer ESL by College Board and a writing sample. So ESL students, I'm calling this group of students ESL students, but I have that in quotes here because this population is so diverse and complex, it cannot possibly be defined by any one acronym. I've actually had professors joke with me that I should do a dissertation just on trying to name and discuss this group of students. I think that's a joke, but because I'm not doing that, but it is important to think that, and I want to just acknowledge that this term doesn't really work for this group of students because no term works to encompass this group of students. They are students from all around the world. They are students who've grown up in the US. They're mostly students who speak a second language at home, or a third or a fourth. English is not necessarily a second language. It might be a 5th language for many students. You know, it's a very broad brush. So our placement process as it stood before this spring places, and it still does this, places people into one of 4 programs. It can send people straight on to college English. We can say, bam, you don't need any English language support, go. Do your thing, go do college. For most students that go through this process, they might need a semester or two, or sometimes more, to work on their academic English skills, to develop their vocabulary, to work on their written grammar, things like that. And so this program here is an outline of what that program looks like. This is the program I teach in and that I am department chair of. Some students who just, they may be very new to the country, or, for other reasons, they may go into a pre-academic program. And then for very few students, most students who go into this program don't have enough English to go through the process. So we don't usually see very many, but we also do provide, free English classes but this is at the hello, how are you, my name is kind of level. So we don't see very many of those, of these students in this process, but sometimes somebody will come in. If we have time, we could talk more about this. I have a whole prezi on who these EAP students are, but in the interest of time, we'll keep going. So about several years ago, in 2014, actually, I think it was a little before, we had a new process kind of imposed on us because our 3 campuses worked separately to place students. And obviously this is a problem. And so a new process was brought in and imposed to unify the process across the 3 campuses, which is a great idea. But if you just, without even reading the details, if you look at this diagram, it's a mess. It's an incredibly complicated process, and we've been doing this for a while now, but there have been problems and problems and problems and problems. Plus, just doesn't work. Basically, what happens in this process, though, is that the student applies to the college, they go take the test, then they have to just wait for 10 days, and then they go online to get their results. And after that point, they meet with student affairs, and then they can register. So this can take 10 days. Students wait, they come in, they take a test, and then then nobody talks to them, and can you imagine how, if you were in this process, you wanted to come and take classes, you come take the test, and then you hear nothing for 10 days, and you're expected to navigate all of that on your own. It's not a very friendly process. So, and as I show here, there are problems with this. One, it's just incredibly complex. It's hard to navigate. The turnaround time is 10 days for some students to get their results. This is an unwelcoming process because you come in, you take a test, and then you never hear from anybody again. You have to go do it all yourself. There's also a workload problem with this process because many students would come take the test, and then, a lot of times because they're confused or nobody ever talked to them, they never enrolled. And so only about 60% of people who participated in this process actually enrolled. And then there's just the question of best practices for how to bring students into college and determine where they need to go. This is kind of, it's an outmoded process that's based on high stakes standardized testing. And, it's very stressful and, not the best. So over the last year, and the other thing with this is that the student isn't involved in the process at all. The process, they come and take the test, and then the placement is something that's kind of done to them. They have no voice in the process. So especially after I started researching all of this at Drexel, I realized this is just a problem. And so I spent about a year laying the groundwork and just doing the research and seeing what other places are doing. And I wrote a proposal to try to make some changes. I talked to colleagues all around the college. Again, going back to theorists, I thought a lot about, you know, Otto Scharmer and Theory U, in how I would talk to people to really try to, as they criticized our process rightfully, that I would just try to listen with an open heart and open mind, as Scharmer puts it. And that really helped me to get buy-in, and it really helped people see that I had good intentions and would be trustworthy to work on this process. So as you can see here, this original proposal, I started researching when I started at Drexel, submitted a proposal at the end of January. It was approved at the beginning of March. And here was the plan, that I would go do more research. We would have a faculty work group that would convene and discuss, and, you know, so that everyone would be involved. We would do a pilot placement project to check it out and try everything. And then if all went well, we would implement a new process in fall 2021. So that was the plan. And then COVID-19 happened, and the college shut down. And suddenly everything had to go virtual. Everything was online. So within a week after this meeting where the proposal was approved, COVID-19 happened. We went online, and my dean and I actually negotiated a delayed implementation of a new process. I was asked to have a process ready as the coordinator for the college. I had to have a process ready on June 1st. So instead of 19 months, I had 3 weeks. And I can tell you that my basic reaction to this was, you know, gag, oh my goodness. Now, part of the reason that this, you know, I write this way, not because it's just a stress reaction to doing 18 months of work in 3 weeks or skipping a lot of those steps. But also this actually is an anagram for the names of people on the team that I put together. The college did support me getting some people together to do this work. So 4 women and I did this. There was Genesis, Aida, Connie, and Kay. We put this together, got it done. And again, in creating this team and working with this team, I was thinking a lot about Amabile and her ideas of what in the workplace can impact creativity. So first of all, giving people a sense of mission. We had a mission. We had an imperative. We needed to be able to be there for our students so that they could get registered for fall classes. So we had a very clear imperative. She also talks about reducing obstacles to creativity and stimulating creativity, being open and supportive and encouraging. So like what I did is I said, okay, you know, here's my idea, you guys, go work on it, and bring it back. And so what we ended up with was an interview protocol, new writing prompts for the writing assessment. And then my contribution to this was working with IT and working with the counseling and advising department to make this process function online. But all the content of the placement interview and the writing prompts, that's all them. They did all that work. It was amazing. And then we did go live on June 1st. So the new process, what this looks like is vastly different from what we had before. But it's informed by best practices research, and hopefully we'll be able to keep this going. We'll see. The student applies to the college. They go online anywhere. Anybody across the world can do this assessment. They complete an online form which asks them some reflective questions and guides them to do a 30-minute writing sample. But it's really untimed. The student receives an email then with instructions on how to make an appointment. The student just clicks on one link, makes the appointment, and then they are going to meet with a placement advisor. the big, huge new thing that we're doing with this, you know, there's no standardized placement test. We can't do it. There is no Accuplace or EXL accessible for us right now. So the student does this writing example and then meets individually one-on-one with a placement advisor, where they do a speaking and listening interview, and the student gets to ask questions, and it's during this interview that the placement team member, the placement advisor, does the final placement for the student. They put that into the system, and then the student can register. One of the coolest things about this is that, you know, the previous process took 10 days. From here, the student applying to the college to being able to register can be 48 hours. In addition, the students are part of the process, they're participating, and they are meeting a faculty member and getting to be welcomed to the college and to start building relationships. So, you know, it's a much friendlier process. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it seems to be working. There are at least students coming in. We have about 470 students who have